to bring Ken. Ken is the owner of OVET, one of the probably the major group of vets in Denmark, and he's also a professor at the university and a diplomate for the European Veterinary Swine College. He's a referent in his country and also in all Europe, and we are happy to bring it to you today to Korea.
Thank you very much. I'm very honored to be invited for this meeting and be able to talk a little bit about what we are doing in Denmark and also in Europe in general. So the agenda for today, I will do a talk. I will do a little bit of introduction about our company, and I will talk about how the veterinary, you could say, system and how the regulation concerning medicine and the work of the vets are in Denmark. I will give you some future perspectives from my point of view, and then we will have a question and answer session at the end. So Emily already introduced myself, so I will not go into detail. One thing that he did not mention is that I has for the past 4 years, not anymore, but for the past 4 years, I was also the president of the swine veterinarians in the Danish Veterinary Association. That's why here on the picture on the right with these two other gentlemen, that's actually the Minister of Agriculture in Denmark. So I've been involved with a lot of political stuff also in the past years. So first of all, I will talk a little bit about our own company, just very short to introduce you to, because OVET is like you can say a typical Danish specialized swine practice. There are 7 specialized practices in Denmark servicing more or less all the pig industry. Well, we are a little special here in Denmark anyway, and that is because of our clients. First of all, this is a map of Denmark and all the dots, all the Danish farms that we are servicing. So I know it doesn't mean much to you. It's just to show you that we are working all over Denmark, which is of course a very, very small country compared to many others. And I don't know if you know that, but in Denmark we have approximately 1 million sows in total. So that is the total sow population in Denmark is roughly 1 million. And we are making today 36 million pigs. Only 20 million are made for slaughter. The rest are sent to Germany, Poland, and other countries as 30 kilo pigs. The Danish pig industry is organized with mainly family-owned farms, and this picture here is like a typical Danish farms. This is a finishing site, but it's typical in the way that it's a family that owns the farm. We have now more and more companies owning pigs, but we don't have any integrators. So we don't have anybody who owns the whole production chain, including the slaughter plants. We also, the average Danish sow farm today is approximately 600 sows, and the average finishing producer will make roughly like 10,000, 12,000 pigs. And of course, there's a large span in these numbers. We have people owning 10,000 sows, and we also still have somebody who only have like 30 or 40 sows actually. So it's really a great variation at this point. But what is special with our company is that we are also working very much outside Denmark. We have a lot of clients in all over Europe. That is the picture on the right here with all the dots. This is the countries where we have regular customers or clients where we are making service. So it's Scandinavia, it's the eastern part of Europe, but also the south, including Italy and Spain and so on. So I consider ourselves a European swine practice. And of course, when we go outside Denmark, it is larger farms. And this is just a picture from Romania showing like typical farm. we are with our customers. So it's maybe 2 or 3 or 5,000 sows located at one site. So it's a lot different from the situation in Denmark. So what do we do? Well, we provide, you can say, and that's very important, independent veterinary supervision advice, and we do it in of course in relation to health and welfare and productivity and feeding and so on. And we work with everything. Of course, mainly we're working with the health of the pigs and the productivity, but you all know that feeding and housing and biosecurity and managing of staff and all those kind of things are related with health and productivity. So we are working with all these different aspects of the production. And also I forgot to mention that we are quite a small company because we are 12 veterinarians, but we are very specialized veterinarians in pigs only. And we make all our monies from simply our honorarium. So we don't make money on medicine or feed or any products at all. So that's why I put emphasis on the independent, because that is our brand, you can say, in the rest of Europe, that we are independent of other companies. We also, in addition to making the consultation on the farms and so on, we offer courses and education for the employees on the farms. We also do some innovation and research projects. It's not so much, but we do that. Of course, now, myself being a professor at the university, I'm of course quite heavily involved with research, but Vet is doing some smaller projects now and then. One of the things that, and I think that was important to mention now in this context, because we are going to talk about antibiotics and so on, we are offering a benchmarking system for our international customers where they can benchmark themselves and the medical use compared to the yellow card system in Denmark, which I will return to later on. That's what we call the med report. Okay, so enough about Vet. So let's turn our attention to the veterinary service system and how things are regulated here in Denmark. And I guess the reason why this should be of interest to you, and probably also the reason why I have been asked, is because that we here in the Nordic countries, I guess, have been considered like front runners when it comes to reduction of antibiotics. There are some good things about that. There are also some bad things about that. Okay, so how does the swine veterinarians work in Denmark? First of all, most herds, and that is like 98% of all the farms, they have what we call a health contract. And it is something that is part of the Danish legislation. When you have this health contract, you need to have, depending on the size of the farm and so on, you need to have between 4 and 12 visits by a veterinarian each year. It is mandatory in principle, it is mandatory for all farms, yes. It's only very small farms, they don't need to have one. Or if they don't want to have any medicine at all, they could also not have one. It has been like this for many years now, actually. It started actually in 1995, so it's been going on for quite a lot of years. It is the farmer that chooses the veterinarian. So in that way, you can say the farmers that we are working with, they have chosen us to be the herd veterinarian. They have chosen us for the health contract. So it is the veterinarian that prescribes all the antibiotics, all the vaccines and so on for the farm. But we are not allowed to sell medicine. We are not allowed to make money on medicine by legislation. So all the medicine, the farmer must buy the medicine from the pharmacy. So we just make a prescription and the farmer buys the medicine from a pharmacy. And this is a little bit different in Denmark compared to some of the other European countries where the farmers are making money on medicine and less on their honorarium. So there is a little bit difference even within the European Union how things are done, you can say. The medicine that we have prescribed for the farm, the farmer is allowed to use the medicine under our supervision. So if I have prescribed thiamulin for diarrhea in finishing pigs, the farmer is allowed to treat the pigs with diarrhea with this medicine all the time when he wants to, under my supervision, you could say. And again, also just to make it precise, that in Denmark, the farmers, they do not have veterinarians employed. If you go to other European countries, some large companies, they may have some veterinarians employed themselves who takes care of all this, but in Denmark, it's not like this. So again, there's a little bit difference between different countries and so on. The swine veterinarians work areas is, of course, we are consultants on health and production, and our main job is to find causes and solutions to the problems that the farmers have related to health, of course, and also because we are coming quite often once a month, we are also helping to, you can say, detect errors or some things that are not optimal. A farmer may not have been aware of a certain problem, and then we help to say, okay, maybe we should work with your mortality in sows and try to reduce that, as an example. It is mainly on disease control, I would say, but so it's probably like 80% or something like that is directly related to health, and the rest may be related to productivity. I would say it really depends on the farms, because on some farms, we have a lot of health issues, so that it is mainly related to health. On other farms, we have also quite a lot of SPF herds in Denmark. We don't have so many health problems. And in those farms, we're talking more about feeding or management related to average daily gain and stuff like that, for example. And this is just to show you some of the working areas. Of course, we're working with acute disease and mortality with the pigs, try to solve problems with that. We're working with the biosecurity aspects, especially now we have swine fever in Europe, so there's also a lot of focus on truck wash, biosecurity, external biosecurity on the farms. We're also working with giving advice concerning when you're building new stables or if you are reconstructing stables. We also make advice on how to make the stables so that it will be the best, also related to health aspects. We also, the Danish vets also work with reproduction, forward insemination, examination of semen and so on. It is not so much on the boar side, but a lot on the female side on the farms. We are making some examinations at the slaughterhouses sometimes. Then, like I already mentioned, but it's a lot of Danish vets also do training or education of the farm staff. It's been becoming more and more important over the years. And here I may also add that in the Danish legislation, it has been added that all employees on farms, they shall have a training course in medicine, how to give injections and stuff like that. And then finally, also we make advice and work with feed. We're not making feed, you can say, recipes, but we are giving advice on how to make feed composition or feeding strategies related both to health and production. So you can say that way we are working really with many, and I'm not only meaning we in but I mean all Danish veterinarians are working with all these different aspects of the farms, and it has been something that has evolved since the mid-90s when we had this legislation where we had to work really closely with the farms. A typical, you say, herd visit or herd examination would work in the way that we're talking a lot. We're going through the stables and we are talking to the staff in all the departments to really try to talk with the people who are taking care of the pigs. And of course, also we make a lot of we make clinical examinations of the pigs, like all vets, I guess, but also some other investigations, and that could be related to, we could make feed analysis, or we could make checks of ventilation sometimes, and then of course also lab tests, different kind of lab tests. We send blood samples or tissue samples to labs. I will get back to that in just a second. And then I think that what we call data analysis is getting more and more, using different data we get from the farms, being on reproduction or being on mortality or being on medication, of course, trying to dig deeper into those numbers. And now that we're talking about diagnostic services, and here I mean labs investigations, so blood samples, tissue samples, and so on. Today we have two commercial labs in Denmark. Like I said, it's a small country, so we don't need more. One in the east and one in the west. But in addition to that, sometimes we are using labs in Germany or even in Spain as well. But the point is that the Danish veterinarians, the practices in Denmark, we don't have lab services ourselves. We only use other labs. And I think that, well, at the end we will get back to the future, but I personally, I think that we will get the private practices here in Denmark, we will get more lab services ourselves, potentially, because that PCR test and other kind of techniques are getting cheaper and smaller and less sophisticated to use. But not tomorrow, but maybe in the next 5 to 10 years. But what we do a lot is necropsy on farms, on the farm. We do a lot of that. And I know, again, there are some differences between the European countries, because there are still some countries in Europe where the vets are not allowed and do not make necropsies on the farms. But here with us, we do that a lot, and sometimes we also send samples to the lab from those pigs. Well, that is it was the authorities. It was made by legislation in 1995. Before that, before 1995, most vets were like old school. You can say they sold medicine, made money on medicine. They went to the farm if there was some acute problems. Some were making some a little bit more, like consultation and stuff. But it was mainly like traditional vet work. So it was made by legislation. 1995, the authorities made these health contracts. Just from one day to the other, boom, you had to do like this. And from that point on, we stopped making money on medicine, and we're only charging the farmer by the hour, and we made our living of consultation. If I may add something, that I think that when I look to our in Øvet, when I look to our customers outside Denmark, they actually want these kind of health contracts, because remember, this is only for Denmark, but we are actually working in a similar way with all the farms and companies that we have contact with outside Denmark, and they actually want the same. They want us to be part and you can take action on the farms on a regular basis, because they can see that we are helping them with the health, because we are making consultation in a proactive way. No, not at all. There are no government money involved at all. Everything before 1995 and everything since 1995 has been paid by farmers. So there's no state money involved at all, not at all. And also, if you ask today, if you ask the Danish farmers today if they think it's a good system, most of them they say yes. For sure, the majority they say this is a very good system. Even if the government would remove the legislation and said they still would like us to come 12 times a year, because they can see that because the farms are getting larger and so on, they need help from vets on a regular basis before things go out of hand. I don't know the exact number, but I know that we are talking roughly like 50, 60, 70 people. And also remember, we are approximately 100 practicing swine veterinarians in Denmark. That's it. We are a total of 3,000 veterinarians in total in Denmark. That's it. But it's in that area, you know, like 50, 60, 70 people working with the government. Take the last part first. I hope that some of the things we have said to politicians over the years has made a difference, but to be honest, sometimes I'm a little bit in doubt. Because politicians have their own agenda, of course, based on so many different things. But we know they listen. I would say the authorities, they listen. I've had, as part of my presidency, I talked a lot with the authority and the government veterinarians and so on, and with those I've had very good relationship, I think, and we have been able to, in an openly way, discuss things, problems, and they also need some, you can say, information from how things are in practice, because they are mainly at the desk, so they need to know how are things actually out in the business, and so on. So there, for sure, we have been able to have good dialogue sometimes, and most of the times. That being said, you also need to understand, of course, that the authorities, the government veterinarians, they also go to some of the farms. Every year, 2.5% or 5% of all the farms are drawn for a random, you can say, control by the government. And then there are some government veterinarians that go to the farm, and they go through everything that has to do with legislation. So they're not really concerned about health or productivity and stuff like that. They're looking at all the welfare legislation, all the legislation on medicine, if the farmer and the vet has done what we're supposed to do. I would say most of the time that also goes okay, but there are also from time to time, you can say, different opinions between practicing vets, farmers on one side, and government vets on the other side, how things should be and how the legislation should be interpreted, because not everything is like real black and white. So there's some room for legislation, for interpretation. And so there are sometimes some discussions, and there are also, some farmers are getting fines and stuff like that. So that is also an issue. If I just may add something, because I didn't put that in my presentation, but we have that's a lot of debate and things going on with transportation of pigs, actually, and what we call, fitness for transport. And this is a really, really big issue, and it has been for a lot of years, actually. And there we really have on one side farmers practicing vets, and on the other side the government vets. And we are not agreeing on which animals are fit for transport. So this is a big issue, and it's also an important reason for culling a lot of otherwise really okay pigs on the farms, because they are not fit for transport, because they have ear necrosis, they have hernias, They have maybe a little bit of lameness, stuff like that. They have shoulder ulcers for sows. So they are actually called on the farm, and they are adding to mortality just because they're not fit for transport. And this is a big problem. That's something we are working on really a lot. Yeah, we write the exact name. So it is really that specific. So let's say again, I have a farmer, they have a respiratory infection with whatever, and they need some antibiotics. I would prescribe exactly, they need to use Denagard or Pulmotil or whatever, it doesn't matter, Thailand, whatever, you know. And I will write specific also how many days, what is the dose, and all those kind of things. So the pharmacy, they must give him that exact product. And it is the same with the vaccines. So if I want to start, or if we're going to start vaccination for mycoplasma or Lawsonia or PRRS virus or PCV2, I will write the exact name of the vaccine on the prescription. It is at the end is the veterinarian, but of course it's always in collaboration with the farmer, because eventually he will have to pay for it. But I'm the one who are making the prescription, so it is my decision in the end. But of course, it will go like this. Okay, let's say we have a PCV2 problem in a herd. So we have made diagnosis and everything. We talk to farmer, we decide we need to start vaccination. I will tell farmer there are 4 or 5 different vaccines on the market. We have good experience with this and this and this. Maybe these 2 are not so good. I will maybe call the pharmacy, or the farmer will call the pharmacy and ask, okay, what is the price for me? What is the cost of this particular vaccine? And maybe there can be some practical issues. You know, some vaccines can be given before a special day of life, and some have a little bit less or longer duration of immunity and all those kind of things. So we will say, okay, we think the best for you will be vaccine number B, and I will write that on the prescription. So that would be like in collaboration. Basically, it is the veterinarian who has the health contract that can prescribe medicine to a farm. But it is possible for another veterinarian to prescribe some medicine for this farmer as well, but he has to tell the herd veterinarian. So yeah, so in real life, in practice, it doesn't happen. It is essentially the herd veterinarian who does that. But somebody working with horses or cattle or cats could potentially prescribe some medicine for a farm. Yeah. Yeah, that's actually a good question, actually, because that is a challenge for us. First of all, there's a newly educated veterinarian is able to make a health contract. So there's nothing in the legislation stating anything. So that would be possible, fine. The problem is that when they get out of vet school, they don't know enough. So of course we need to train them. There is a postgraduate education in Denmark and also in other countries, but it's a 2.5-year postgraduate program. It's not a full-time program. It's something that you take as part of your job. And then we in Øvet ourselves, we have a training program as well. So within the first year, we have very specified what they need to go through and so on. But it takes time, and I guess you know that as well as I, that it takes time to learn over the years. We have, in our experience, the best vets, at least from the beginning, are those that have worked with pigs themselves. We have, because of the way the Danish system is made, I mean, with the high school and stuff, it's quite common that some of the pig, that the veterinarians who want to work with pigs and also with cattle, many of them have actually been working on farms, you know, for 1 or 2 years before they started vet school. So they have some practical experience simply taking care of pigs, you know, and that's very good because they understand the pig production and the system, and they can talk to the farmer and the staff and so on. So that helps a lot. Of course, sometimes we get employees that don't have any practical experience, so they have a little more rough start, I guess you can say.